भारतीय इतिहास अनुसंधान परिषद नतून दिल्ली की सहयोग से आयोजित की गई। भारतीय परिप्रेक्ष्य में भारतीय इतिहास लेखन शीर्षक एक दिवसीय कार्यशाला की आज के इस द्वितीय और समापन सत्र में आप सभी को हमारी प्रणाम और सभी को स्वागत है। हृदय में एक झंकार सा हो, ज्ञान की बौछार हो। हृदय में एक झंकार सा हो, ज्ञान की बौछार हो। आप सभी की कृपा से हमें माँ भारती की सेवा करने की एक सही दिशा प्राप्त हो। आज के इस द्वितीय सत्र में हमें दो मनुष्य को डॉक्टर ओंजू उपाध्याय जी और प्राध्यापक श्रीनिवासन कल्याण रमन जी का मार्गदर्शन प्राप्त होंगे। आइए हम द्वितीय सत्र की ओर चलें। उस्मान उसे आसमान में जैसे पंछी लेते हैं उड़ान, उसे आसमान में जैसे पंछी लेती है उड़ान, वैसे ही अपनी मेहनत से जिन्होंने छुआ है आसमान, पधारे है आज हमारे बीच में हुए ज्ञानवान। करता हूँ आदर पूर्वक उनको सत सत प्रणाम। भारतीय इतिहास अनुसंधान परिषद के निदेशक प्राध्यापक आदरणीय डॉक्टर ओंजू उपाध्याय जी को हमारे प्रणाम और स्वागतम। मैं डॉक्टर अंकिता दत्ता जी से निवेदन करती हूँ आदरणीय ओम जी की संक्षिप्त परिचय हमारे कार्यशाला के प्रतिभागियों को अवगत करें। धन्यवाद। अंकिता का अनम्यूट করিল। এটা আছে আমি চাইছি। गुड आफ्टरनून एवरीवन, सभी को मेरा नमस्ते और प्रणाम। फिर से इस वन डे नेशनल वर्कशॉप में भारतीय संचालन समिति आसाम राज्य की तरफ से और we are now going to start the technical session 2. This is the post lunch session and morning की तरह we have two speakers with us, two esteemed speakers with us. और सबसे पहले है हमारे बीच डॉक्टर ओमजी उपाध्याय। सो मैं ब्रीफली मैं उनकी परिचय में आप सबके सामने मैं थोड़ा सा बोलना चाहूँगी। सो डॉक्टर ओमजी उपाध्याय is an eminent historian and he was born in the year 1979 at Gorakhpur in Uttar Pradesh. Dr. Upadhyay completed his master's archaeology and culture, and he has passed all his examinations in the first class from matriculation to post graduation with the distinction of earning the National Scholarship and Rani Durgavati Devi Memorial Scholarship at the undergraduate and postgraduate level. He was also awarded a doctoral degree on the subject Bhakti with cultural implications from earliest times to the early medieval ages from being the Upadhyay Gorakhpur University, Gorakhpur in the year 2011. Besides qualifying the national eligibility test in the year 2003, and he was subsequently awarded the junior and senior research fellowships of the UGC, and he has also earned the academic experience of working as a research associate in the Department of Indian History, Archaeology and Culture in Deendayal Upadhyay Gorakhpur University, Gorakhpur. Dr. Omji Upadhyay has almost 18 years of experience in research, teaching and academic administration. He has co-dictated more than 65 national and international seminars and participated in more than 120 such seminars as resource person and distinguished speaker, keynote speaker, chair and co-chair of the academic inaugural valedictory sessions. And in his continuous academic endeavor, Dr. Omji has been associated with the publication of 6 books, both authored and edited books, 37 research papers, and a good number of articles in renowned publishing houses. Some of his major published work include Indian Culture and Heritage in South and Southeast Asia, Vijayam, Probing in Indian History, Nagpanthi or Bhakti Andolan, Agriculture and Agrarian Communities in the Indian Subcontinent, Historical Perspectives, Bhakti, its cultural implications, and Bharatiya Rashtriyata, past, present, etc. Dr. Omji has also contributed in the publication of several journals. He has edited 18 issues of a record of a peer-reviewed research journal, Manaviki, which is an interdisciplinary research journal of humanities and social sciences, 3 issues of Purva, a bulletin of the Department of Ancient History, Archaeology and Culture of BDU Gorakhpur University, and 6 issues of Itihasa has also been edited by him. It is a research journal of the Indian Council of Historical Research, ICHR New Delhi, till date. He has also organized and coordinated a number of workshops, lecture series, and academic conferences. Prasar Bharti also has contracts with Dr. Om for more than 50 programs with Lucknow and Gorakhpur Doordarshan Kendras. And in recognition to his to his academic endeavor, Dr. Omji has been nominated as a member of the Maulana Abul Kalam Azad Institute of Asian Studies, Calcutta, an autonomous organization of the Ministry of Culture, Government of India. He has been nominated for a term of 5 years, starting from January 5th, 2019. He is also a member of the Research Advisory Committee, RSC, for 3 years, from 2018 to 2021 in the same organization. Besides being also a member of the UGC's prestigious LOCF committee, which is the Learning Outcome Based Curriculum Framework of History, in 2019-20, he is also a member of the Board of Studies of the Rashtriya Sanskrit Sansthan, New Delhi, and the Sikkim Central University, Denmark. He is a member of several committees and subcommittees of National Archives, New Delhi, Nehru Memorial Museum and Library, New Delhi, IGNCA, New Delhi, Indian Council of Philosophical Research, Delhi, NCRT, CBSE, Ministry of Tribal Affairs, Ministry of Panchayati Raj, Government of India, etc. Presently, Dr. Omji Upadhyay is serving as the Director, Research and Administration, Indian Council of Historical Research, which is an autonomous organization of the Ministry of Education, Government of India. It's an immense pleasure to again hear from you, sir, after the Vakyanmala series that we had recently organized by DISS Assam. Without taking much more time, I would like to start. I would like to request you to start with your speech, and it's a it's a very blessing. It's a blessing actually to again have you with us all here. So, namaste. Dhanyavad.
Goddess of knowledge and music, Sigma Saraswati, Honorable Professor Dr. S. Kalyana Ramanji, who has really brought us a paradigm shift in the historiography. Namaskar, sir. Dr. Mahavir Prasad Jain, sir. Dr. Dilip Kumar Bhupen ji, Dr. Narendra Bora ji, Dr. Julie Sharma, Dr. Antika Datta ji, and very dynamic, my friend Dr. Subhajit ji, who has been a key person in organizing all these series of programs and events. Namaskar. And other participants, listeners, namaskar. ठीक तरीके से बहुत अच्छे से। इसलिए उसकी समझ के साथ मैं उस पैराडाइम शिफ्ट की तरफ आऊंगा, which is really our approach towards Bharat as Vishnu Guru. And once Swami Vivekananda, I'm again quoting Swami Vivekananda, once he wrote that the histories of our country written by British and other Western writers cannot be but the weakening up to our minds, for they talk only of our downfall. How can foreigners who understand very little of our manners and customs, our religion and philosophy, write faithful and unbiased histories of us? Naturally, many false notions and wrong inferences have found their way to them. And really this happened. आपको मैं बताऊं कि 79 times it is on record that after delivering his lectures, Swami Vivekananda, after completing his lecture, he used to say, "But you Westerners will never understand." मैं बता तो रहा हूँ लेकिन आप लोग ये समझ नहीं पाएंगे क्योंकि आपने इसको जिया नहीं। And इसीलिए जब मैं मार्क्स को और मैक्स वेबर को पढ़ता हूँ तो उन्होंने इतनी झालक दी, उन्हें कभी भारतीय समाज की समझ हो ही नहीं सकती, भारतीय संस्कृति परंपरा और इतिहास की समझ हो ही नहीं सकती थी, वो हो नहीं सकती थी। दूसरे स्ट्रैटेजिकली वो हमारे कॉन्फिडेंस को हैमर कर रहे थे, बहुत सोची समझी रणनीति के लिए। ये दोनों ही बातें थी, इसमें इन दोनों को समझना पड़ेगा। अभी आगे हमारा अपना जो उद्देश्य है उसको समझने, निर्धारित करने और वहां तक पहुंचने। No doubt history in Bharat is a debated, rather I say much debated subject. And a few years back there was no space for any alternative ideology, as Islamo-leftist historians refuse to acknowledge some well-documented chapters and glorious past of Bharatiya history because of their own agenda. History is question of interpretation, and Islamo-leftist and Nehruvian historians have wrongly interpreted Bharat's past so that they could make a space for Muslim superiority and caste diversity in Bharatiya society for their own benefit and for their own sake. They never accepted the great and glorious past of Bharat. Instead, they accepted the Western hegemony and ideological subjugation to Marx and Lenin for their imaginary revolutions. And there is no doubt that the left academicians, whom I say Islamo-leftist historians, they had indeed hijacked history textbooks and turned it into propaganda soon after Bharat attended its century. और इसीलिए मैं बार बार ये कहता हूँ कि more dangerous than the British intellects or British or Western thinkers and Western historians. The textbooks written by Romila Thapar and then Bipin Chandra and other Marxists, and they have presented a rose-tinted vision of Hindu-Muslim unity, running through the whole of the Delhi Sultanate through the Mughals, right through the Mughals. These historians, these Islamo-leftist historians, who used textbooks
और BC तक ले गए हैं। और अभी भी लुम्बिनी के जो माया देवी टेम्पल है, few months back we were there, we saw all those excavations, all those trenches. अभी भी जो वहाँ excavations चल रहे हैं और उनमें जो OSL determination हो रहा है वो एक नया डायरेक्शन तो देता ही है। तो इस पे एक बार डिस्कशन करने में मुझे लगता है कि कोई बुराई नहीं है। इसको ज्यादा से ज्यादा हिस्टोरियंस को इस पे काम करते हुए हमें उस पैराडाइम शिफ्ट की ओर बढ़ना है। इसी के साथ चाणक्य, चंद्रगुप्त मौर्य और अशोक की डेटिंग पे भी काम हो सकता है, कनिष्क की डेटिंग पे, गुप्ता इंपायर के पीरियड पे, विक्रमादित्य और शालिवाहन के हिस्टोरिसिटी पे वर्क हो सकता है, महावीर जैन और कालिदास की डेटिंग पे काम हो सकता है। और आगे जो नैरेटिव्स गढ़े गए, जो असंतुलन क्रिएट किया गया, उस पे अभी हम लगातार काम कर रहे हैं, उस पे लगातार काम हो रहा है। और डेफिनेटली ये जो शिफ्ट है ये सही और प्रामाणिक और संतुलित इतिहास लेखन की ओर ले जाएगा। पूरा जो मेडाइवल हिस्ट्री है somehow it became Delhi centric history. वो दिल्ली केंद्रित इतिहास हो गया, सल्तनत काल का इतिहास, मुगल काल का इतिहास। उस समय, उसी समय देश में विजयनगर साम्राज्य है अपने पूरे वैभव के साथ, उसी समय देश में अहोम डायनेस्टी है अपने पूरे मजबूती के साथ, लेकिन इतिहास की किताबों में उसका कोई जिक्र नहीं। ये जो असंतुलन है, ये ठीक करने के लिए हम इस पे हम लगातार काम कर रहे हैं। ज्यादा से ज्यादा हिस्टोरियंस मुझे लगता है कि इस पे काम करें और उस दिशा में हम आगे बढ़ें। इसी तरह से जो एंशिएंट तमिल किंगडम्स हैं, उन पे हम बहुत कम अपने विद्यार्थियों को बताते हैं या बता पाते हैं। इस तरह की बहुत सारी जो मराठा एम्पायर है, शिवाजी महाराज का जो कंट्रीब्यूशन है, मेवाड़ का जो कंट्रीब्यूशन है, मेवाड़ की जो ताकत है, दिवेर का युद्ध, केवल एक एक ऐसे युद्ध हैं, एक एक ऐसी पर्सनालिटीज हैं जो वास्तव में हमारे अंदर, हमारी आने वाली पीढ़ियों में जिस राष्ट्र भाव का संचार कर सकती हैं, उससे हमें हमारी पीढ़ियों को बहुत हद तक दूर रखा गया है, स्ट्रेटेजिकली दूर रखा गया। भाई अंग्रेजों के सामने तो ये लक्ष्य था कि उनको लंबे समय तक निष्कंटक राज्य करना था, लेकिन उनके मानस पुत्रों ने भी 6.5 दशक तक यही किया। अभी हम लोग इस समय आजादी के अमृत महोत्सव पे काम कर रहे हैं, आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव मना रहे हैं। इसमें it is our responsibility that the true history of entire freedom struggle should come out, should be publicized. So Dr. Subhajit ji, few days back, he has just conducted a 2-day seminar on उत्तर पूर्व भारत। उसके जो अनसंग हीरोज हैं, अनसंग प्लेसेस हैं, इंसिडेंट्स हैं, इंस्टीट्यूशंस, ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं, उस पर उन्होंने किया। इस तरह का जो पूरे देश से, जब ये एक साल हमें बहुत गोल्डन अपॉर्चुनिटी मिली है कि कम से कम उस 400-500 साल के इतिहास को हम सही तरीके से, संतुलित तरीके से, सत्यपरक और प्रामाणिक इतिहास को देश के सामने ले आ सकते हैं। बहुत अजीब से नैरेटिव्स गढ़े, हमें बताया गया उस समय फ्रीडम स्ट्रगल मूवमेंट में 10 धाराएं एक साथ काम कर रही हैं। सोशियो रिलीजियस मूवमेंट चल रहा है, पीजेंट्स का मूवमेंट चल रहा है, वर्कर्स का, लेबरर्स का मूवमेंट चल रहा है, ट्राइबल्स का मूवमेंट चल रहा है, लगातार ये सब आंदोलन चल रहे हैं। कल्चरल नेशनलिज्म की एक पूरी धारा चल रही है जो पूरी वैचारिक खादपानी बन रही है इस पूरे मूवमेंट का। इसके अलावा रिवॉल्यूशनरी मूवमेंट चल रहा है, लेकिन हम आज भी रिवॉल्यूशनरी मूवमेंट को, आप यशपाल ग्रोवर की या विपिन चंद्रा की किताब देखेंगे तो उसमें रिवॉल्यूशनरी मूवमेंट को या रिवॉल्यूशनरीज को टेररिस्ट मूवमेंट कहा गया। रिवॉल्यूशनरी टेररिस्ट मूवमेंट। आज भी हम इस ट्रैप में फंसे हुए। इसके जिस तरह का जो हजारों हजार, क्योंकि हमें नैरेटिव दूसरा हमारे सामने गढ़ा गया, हमें बताया गया दे दी हमें आजादी बिना खटक बिना ढाल। बहुत सुंदर गीत है, बहुत अच्छा लगता है सुनने में, लेकिन क्या सच है ये? क्या सच्चाई है इसमें? मैं किसी भी व्यक्तित्व के कंट्रीब्यूशन को अंडरमाइन नहीं कर रहा, लेकिन जो हमें बताया गया, व्हाट वी वर टोल्ड, व्हाट वी वर टॉट, इट वाज समवट फॉल्स नैरेटिव। जो हमें पढ़ाया गया, जो हमें बताया गया, जो कंट्रीब्यूशन है गांधी जी का, वो निश्चित रूप से वो अनपैरेलल। 3 क्रम में 3 जो आंदोलन वो लेके आते हैं, वो इतना जबरदस्त, इतना सुचिंतित आंदोलन है, एक एक व्यक्ति की साइकोलॉजी को सूट करने वाला आंदोलन है। उसके पैरेलल जो धाराएं चल रही हैं उस समय, वो हमसे कहीं ना कहीं छूटती हैं या हमसे छुड़ाई जाती हैं। अभी ये मौका हमें मिला है कि हम पैराडाइम शिफ्ट की ओर फिर से ठीक तरीके से बढ़ सकें, और जो कंट्रीब्यूशन हजारों हजार क्रांतिकारी अपने प्राणों की आहुति दे रहे हैं, उनको सही तरीके से, और उन्हें कहीं ना कहीं अंधेरे में, कुछ बहुत चालाक और समर्थ इतिहासकारों ने अंधेरे के गर्त में उनको धकेल दिया। जैसा भाई साहब हमेशा कहते हैं कि हमारा सिक्का अगर अंधेरे कमरे में खोया है, तो केवल इस तर्क के आधार पर अगर हम उसे स्ट्रीट लाइट में खोजेंगे तो नहीं मिलने वाला है। हमें वी हैव टू ट्राई अवर लेवल बेस्ट टू go deep into and to just create all the ways and means to illuminate that very room. तभी हमें we are going to get the nectar, तभी हमें वो अमृत प्राप्त होने वाला है। इसलिए, और यही इकलौता रास्ता है, क्योंकि उन्होंने इतनी जगह हैमरिंग किया हमारे आत्मविश्वास को तोड़ने के लिए, उससे जब हम उलट सही प्रामाणिक इतिहास लेखन के साथ एक कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव हिस्ट्री ऑफ भारत के रूप में जो भारत का समग्र इतिहास होगा, सत्यपरक होगा, प्रामाणिक होगा, तब हम वास्तव में जो हमारी स्थिति थी कि हम विश्वगुरु थे, जिस समय दुनिया के बहुत सारे देश अभी अपनी सभ्यता के शैशवावस्था में थे, तब हम बहुत उन्नत अवस्था में अपना जीवन बिता रहे थे। ठीक है, हमारे अंदर कुछ कमियां आई, उनको भी स्वीकार करना चाहिए, जिसके कारण हमें संघर्ष से गुजरना पड़ा, हजार वर्ष के संघर्ष से गुजरना पड़ा। लेकिन इस 1000 वर्ष ने और खासकर अंत के 200 वर्षों ने हमसे बहुत कुछ छीना है। उसको हमें फिर से प्राप्त करना है, उस पर लगातार प्रयास चल रहे हैं। इतिहास संकलन योजना की, अखिल भारतीय इतिहास संकलन योजना की स्थापना जब होती है 1978-79 में, उसके पहले बाबा साहब स्मारक आपत्ति समिति बनती है 1973 में, 1994 में वो रजिस्टर होती है, 78-9 के बाद यानी 1980 से प्रॉपरली अखिल भारतीय इतिहास संकलन योजना ने काम करना शुरू किया, और 40 साल में बहुत हद तक की यात्रा हमने सारी विपरीत परिस्थितियों के बावजूद तय की। इन 5-6 वर्षों में उसकी जो गति है वो कई गुनी बढ़ी, क्योंकि शुरू के जो 35 वर्ष थे, फिर कहूंगा कहीं ना कहीं वो बहुत कठिन वर्ष थे, इसलिए जितनी लंबी यात्रा, जितनी दूर तक की यात्रा हो जानी चाहिए थी, वो नहीं हो पाई। इस 5-6 वर्षों में उस गति ने बहुत तीव्रता पकड़ी है, और हम फिर अब उस स्थिति में हैं कि हम एक पूरा सत्यपरक इतिहास, पूरे देश का संतुलित इतिहास अब लेके आ सकते हैं, अपनी पाठ्य पुस्तकों का ठीक तरीके से परिवर्तन करने की ओर जा सकते हैं, एंड डेफिनेटली दिस विल लीड आवर पाथ टुवर्ड्स दैट नेक्टर व्हाट our honorable PM mentioned in his speech on 12th of March 2021 at Sabarmati Ashram, कि हम अमृत्यो और मुक्षीय मामृतात का उद्घोष उन्होंने किया कि हमें मृत्यु से अमरता की ओर बढ़ना है। तो वो मृत्यु यही है कि हमें इंटेलेक्चुअली, जो अभी भी हमारे साथ समस्या ये है कि हम पॉलिटिकली फ्री हुए, लेकिन कहीं ना कहीं इंटेलेक्चुअली अभी उनके उपनिवेशी रह गए। जो डिकोलराइजेशन ऑफ माइंड्स है वो अभी ठीक तरीके से नहीं हो पाया। इसलिए अपने बुद्धि को, अपने विवेक को, अपनी प्रज्ञा को, अपनी वाणी को, इसको डिकोलराइज करने की बहुत जरूरत है, और तभी हम फिर से विश्व गुरु बनने की ओर अग्रसर हो सकेंगे। मृत्यु और मुक्षीय मामृतात का जो उद्घोष है, उस अमृत को पाने के लिए अपने को हमें फिर से तपाना पड़ेगा, और जो भी इस तरह के अभी हमारे सामने जो लक्ष्य है कि हम देश का, पूरे भारत का, समग्र भारत का एक समग्र इतिहास जो सत्यपरक हो, प्रामाणिक हो, प्रामाणिक स्रोतों के आधार पर हो, वो लेके आए, और उस झूठ के ट्रैप से, जो झूठ का पूरा पुलिंदा है हिस्टोरियोग्राफी में, इतिहास लेखन में, उस ट्रैप से, और जो असंतुलन, जो बहुत बुरी तरह से असंतुलित इतिहास लेखन है, उससे बाहर निकाल के ला सके। उस पे पिछले 40 वर्षों में हमने बहुत सारी लंबी यात्रा की है। 1857 पे बहुत ठीक काम हुआ है हमारा, सरस्वती सिविलाइजेशन पे बहुत अच्छे से काम हुआ है, आर्यन इन्वेजन थ्योरी पे बहुत ठीक से काम हुआ है। ये सारी जो क्रम है, इसको अभी मैंने कुछ बिंदु केवल संकेत के तौर पे आपसे चर्चा की। इसको जब हम लेके आएंगे तो फिर जो विश्वगुरु बनने का सपना है, NEP is the first official document after independence which has mentioned Bharat as Vishwaguru। जो नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी आई 2020 में 29 जुलाई को, जिसे कैबिनेट ने पास किया, वो पहला ऑफिशियल डॉक्यूमेंट है 1947 में आजादी के बाद से आज तक का, जिसने भारत को ऑफिशियली विश्वगुरु कहा है, और अपने उस पूरे प्रज्ञा, अपने उस पूरी ज्ञान परंपरा का उदाहरण देते हुए, एक एक नाम, एक एक कंट्रीब्यूशन का उदाहरण देते हुए कि वास्तव में हम लोग क्या हैं, कौन थे, दुनिया में हमारी स्थिति क्या थी, और हमारी सभ्यता मूलतः थी क्या, इसका संकेत करते हुए उस डॉक्यूमेंट ने पहली बार विश्वगुरु कहा है। वास्तव में हमें अपनी उसी मूल पहचान की ओर लौटना है, और जो 150 वर्षों में जो मार्क्स और वेबर की आंखों से इतिहास को देखा गया, जो इतिहास ब्रिटिशर्स के ब्रेन चिल्ड्रन ने लिखा, उनके मानस पुत्रों ने लिखा, उस ट्रैप से बाहर आकर हम फिर से भारतीय मन से, भारतीय चेतना से, भारतीय चित्त से, भारतीय साक्ष्यों के आधार पर भारतीयों द्वारा ये इतिहास लेखन की ओर हम ठीक से जाएं। जो यात्रा हम कर चुके हैं उतना बहुत श्लाघ्य है, उतना बहुत प्रशंसनीय है, लेकिन आगे हमारे सामने जो लक्ष्य है वो भी हमें बहुत एक टारगेटेड टाइम के अंदर, एक दिए हुए समय के अंदर प्राप्त करना है, जिससे हम समग्र तरीके से एक परिणाम के साथ आ सकें और भारत, माँ भारती पुनः उसी स्थान पर, जैसा स्वामी विवेकानंद ने कल्पना की थी और उद्घोष किया था कि मैं अपने मनश्चक्षुओं से देख रहा हूं कि माँ भारती पुनः आसीन है, उसी वैभव और उसी महिमा के साथ पूरी तरह से प्रदीप्त होकर उसी आसन पर फिर से विराजित है। हम लोग उसी पथ के सभी पथिक हैं, इसलिए हम उस रास्ते पर बढ़ें, ऐसी मेरी शुभकामना। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। वंदे मातरम। धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद ओम जी सर।
अशेष अशेष धन्यवाद। आपका मीटिंग है, अभी आपको वहां पर जाना है, तो हम लोग बहुत लाभान्वित हुए। एंड यू हैव शोन अस दैट हाउ राइटिंग ऑफ इतिहास कैन लीड टू भारत एज ए विश्व गुरु, and there is, yes, that paradigm shift is there, and it will be there, that continuum process, that continuity, in continuity of that we are as a Jodha of that we are there, and your margdarshan will be always helpful to us as a team, and we can lead in a better way with all, I mean, again आपको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, आभार, आपने कीमती समय दिया।
I'm very sorry, as I really want to listen to Dr. S. Kalyanaraman sir. I wish I could do it, but due to this meeting, I have to leave. But I'd request Dr. Subhajit ji, please share his recording with me. I'd definitely, at the leisure time, I'll definitely listen to him, and I'll be benefited. Sorry, I'm leaving, sir. Thank you, thank you, thank you, all of you. Thank you.
Okay. धन्यवाद। धन्यवाद once again to Dr. Omji Upadhyay for his brilliant and really it's a thought-provoking speech. And all these speeches are leading to actually Bharat as a Vishwaguru, right from morning till now. So now our next speaker and the authority on Saraswati civilizations, and to some extent you can say it is our dream to have with us Professor Srinivasa Kalyanaraman, who has devoted his lifetime for the work of revival of Saraswati civilizations. So today's that title is also what he worked for, is revival of Saraswati civilizations. With this, I would like to request Dr. Jury Sharma and Ankita Datta to take further proceedings on this session.
नमस्कार सर। भगवान ने भी कीमती रत्न गिनती करके ही बनाए हैं। भगवान ने भी कीमती रत्न गिनती करके ही बनाए हैं। उन रत्नों में से एक कीमती रत्न आज हमारे बीच में आए हैं। भगवान का बनाया हुआ उस अनमोल रत्न माँ भारती के सुपुत्र, सरस्वती नदी सभ्यता की सत्यता को उजागर करने वाला प्राज्ञ आदरणीय प्राध्यापक श्रीनिवासन कल्याणरमन जी को हमारे प्रणाम और स्वागतम। उनके बारे में संक्षिप्त परिचय हमारे प्रतिभागियों को अवगत करने के लिए मैं डॉक्टर अंकिता दत्त से निवेदन करती हूँ। धन्यवाद।
जी धन्यवाद। The next speaker in this technical session is Dr. Srinivasan Kalyanaraman. उनके बारे में ज़्यादा बोलने की ज़रूरत है ही नहीं, because we all know him and his extensive work on the Saraswati civilization. फिर भी मैं थोड़ा सा briefly मैं उनके बारे में बता दूंगी before he starts his speech. So he is associated with the Saraswati Sindhu Research Center in Chennai. And as we all know, he is a pioneering researcher contributing immense materials and research-related studies related to a better understanding and appreciation of our ancient Indian history and its timelines. Dr. Kalyanaraman's website carries over 40,000 files on the river Saraswati, which can be used by all researchers. His contributions can be accessed at the links that are provided in the resources and the bibliography sections. Dr. Kalyanaraman has written 14 pioneering volumes on the Saraswati Vedic river and the Hindu civilization that highlight various aspects of the civilization, including its language and writing systems and cultural traditions. They also describe his ongoing work, including over 2,000 archaeological sites on the banks of the Vedic Saraswati and identification of the people who lived in that age from discoveries in archaeology. And these volumes provide enough evidence to refute the ongoing prejudicial attacks from Western writers and academicians, and in particular, the currently discarded theory of Aryan invasion, जिसके बारे में हमने फर्स्ट सेशन में भी बात किया था और अभी डॉक्टर ओमजी उपाध्याय ने भी बोला, and which unfortunately continues to be taught in the Western academia and in schools. And it has been because of the tireless efforts of Dr. Srinivasan Kalyanaraman that today we have detailed information regarding various facets of the studies on the sacred river Saraswati and the culture which is identified with the Hindu civilization and that blossomed on the banks of the river Saraswati. And Dr. Kalyanaraman is a graduate in economics. He has mastery over many languages. He has secured a doctorate in the subject of public administration from the University of Philippines. After completing 18 years of successful service in the Asian Bank, it was in the year 1995 that he dedicated himself completely for the cause of the Saraswati Nadi Shodh Prakalpa. He floated the idea that it is possible to rejuvenate the river Saraswati by making the subterranean waters available and flowing, and make the river Sutlej a perennial river using the desiccated beds of the river Saraswati through the Rajasthan Canal. And it is something unprecedented in the history of the world to have a mighty river which had been a support to many towns and empires disappearing without a trace for thousands of years, and again to be rejuvenated and flowing in the land of Bharata to bring the prosperity that was lost with its disappearance. After 5,000 years, the slok in the Mahabharata on the river Saraswati becomes relevant again. With this, I would like to ask, I would like to request Dr. Srinivasa Kalyanaraman ji to begin his speech. It is really a pleasure and a blessing to have sir today amongst all of us. So I would like to request again to begin your speech. Namaste. Dhanyavad.
Dhanyavad, Ankita ji. I will make a PowerPoint presentation. I can share the screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. Namaskar. Sabirjit Chaudhary ji.
Namaskar.
Amalvir Prasad Jain ji. Dhanyavad. It's really a pleasure to remember and pay our tributes. Wakankar ji, Vishnu Wakankar ji, Moraband Pingle ji, Hariba Vase ji, who have contributed enormously to the work related to the search for river Saraswati. We have succeeded in finding her. I think work is ongoing to make her flow again. It will happen. There is no stopping it. So I will use a PowerPoint slides presentation to present to you the present state of affairs of the revival of river Saraswati civilization with it. So how do we revive civilization? We revive civilization by understanding what our Pitrus have done for us, what our ancestors have given for us, and following their path. So I think work has been going on, and we have got a lot more work to do. We have now understood the people who are living on the banks of the river Saraswati. We know the languages they spoke. We know the messages they have given us in 8,000 indescript seals. They have given us information about created how Bharat became the richest country in the world in one common era. How did it happen? For 4,000 years, our artisans and seafaring merchants and our rishis and munis who gave them proper direction, have carried forward a remarkable journey, a Tirtha Yatra, to make this nation thrive, make all the people happy. And we are now on a threshold of a revolution that is taking place. Right before now, navigation started, inland waterways have become active. So this will be the symbol of Saraswati flowing again, carrying the wealth of the country all over, to all the regions of the country and to all the Tirthastanas. Okay. Now, how do I, Ankita ji, Jury Sharma ji, how do I make the presentation for PowerPoint? How do I?
जी सर. जी सर.
How do I do that?
Yeah, it is there in your that arrow mark box is there.
सर आपको वो स्क्रीन शेयर करना पड़ेगा, जो एक शेयर स्क्रीन करके एक आता है, तो आपको वहां से करना पड़ेगा.
दिखाइए उसको. शेयर स्क्रीन कलर है. You want to screen?
Sir, can you? Yeah, this is present now is there. You can one is mic, one is video, one is CC, and then present now. You can.
Okay.
Yes.
Are you able to see now?
No, it will be seen. You just click there.
Click on the present screen. Okay.
Yeah, it is now shared.
Yeah, you're sharing now. Are you able to see?
Yeah, it is shared.
Are you able to see?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The title of the presentation is Revival of Civilization. Are you able to see that?
Yes.
Okay. Namaskar. So we will first take the first slide. So a quiet revolution is taking place. We are now having national waterways of total length of 4,503 kilometers. In this journey on the Tirthastanas and the Tirthas riverways, Brahmaputra and Ganga will play a major part, as you can see from the map. A journey with the cargo on the Brahmaputra from Dhubri to Sadhya, on Barak from Akhipur, Banga, which is in process. We have the Brahmani Delta canals in Orissa. We have the Godavari Krishna canals from Kakinada to Puducherry, work is going on. We have on the west coast canals for the Kollam to Kottapuram, 205 kilometers. So, Brahmaputra and Ganga. So, we will go beyond Saraswati into Ganga and Brahmaputra. So, now let us take a look at the Ganga and Brahmaputra, which also were thriving in the days of the Saraswati civilization. I will prove that because there is no evidence available that the biggest site of the civilization is called Rakigadi. Rakigadi is only just a little north of Delhi, between Saraswati River. Rakigadi was the transshipment point for goods traveling from Brahmaputra, Ganga, Yamuna, and into Saraswati. And Saraswati was a navigable waterway. It was carrying a lot of cargo, which made the seafaring merchants carry the copper ore mines, zinc mine ores, tin ore from the east coast. I will show you the sites where the tin was available. They are all being carried from Rakigadi as a transshipment point through Saraswati, through the Persian Gulf, the Rann of Kutch, into Tigris Euphrates to Mediterranean Ocean. Now, a remarkable discovery has been made by French archaeologists who have found in this place called Ain Sukna on the Red Sea, on the north of the Suez Canal. About 3,000 years ago, a shipwreck had occurred there. And the boat was remarkable because it was a hewn boat using coil ropes. The hewn boats are preserved only in Kerala. Even today, the boats are being made in Kerala using the technique of sewing. And the same type of technique is used even in the boats of the Orissa and Bengal in the olden times. And that's how the Bali Yatra started, with our people from the Bengal and Orissa going towards Bali in Indonesia. And they were also carrying these Aranmula Kannadi, the bronze mirrors, Edi and other sites. And the navigable nature of the activity is exemplified by the statement of the Rigveda, Shamno Varnaha. That has become the symbol for the Indian Navy, Shamno Varna. Okay, the hewn boats of Kerala and Ain Sukna are dated to 19th century before Common Era. I will just play this YouTube video.
But all their allies cities are a huge problem for me. They thwart my wish to smash down those sturdy walls of Troy. 9 of great Zeus' years have rolled on past. Ships' planks have rotted, the ropes have frayed. Back home, our wives and children wait for us. The work for which we came remains undone.
Le texte d'Homère que l'on vient d'entendre, tiré de l'Iliade, nous apprend que les bateaux grecs de la flotte achéenne de la guerre de Troie étaient des bateaux assemblés par ligature, ce que l'on appelle des bateaux cousus. Ce sont les fameux liens dont on parle. Cette technique, nous en avons le témoignage à travers plusieurs épaves grecques archaïques du 6e siècle avant Jésus-Christ, comme par exemple les épaves découvertes à Marseille à plein de Jules Verne. Et ces épaves nous montrent que rudimentaire, cette technique de construction d'assemblage par ligature était très élaborée et témoigne du degré de sophistication atteint par les charretiers grecs de l'époque archaïque. La technique d'assemblage par ligature est une des plus anciennes techniques de construction des bateaux. C'est une technique naturelle qui remonte aux origines mêmes de la construction navale.
The earliest evidence of this technique has been found in Egypt, on sites of the Nile Valley and the Red Sea coast. Gallery at Ain Sokhna, the carbonized remains of a completely dismantled and carefully stored sewn boat have recently been discovered.
Nous sommes ici dans un des galeries de Ain Sokhna sur le bord de la mer Rouge, en présence d'un bateau du Moyen Empire. Ces vestiges montrent que ces bateaux étaient assemblés avec des ligatures et des tenons.
On observe la distribution très bien sur ces deux ensembles. Alors on a des assemblages par tenons et mortaise, soit simples, soit doubles, associés avec des systèmes d'assemblage par ligature.
Les plus anciens bateaux cousus connus au monde remontent à l'ancien empire de l'Égypte pharaonique. Ils ont été trouvés à Abydos et qui datent de 3000 avant Jésus-Christ. Mais les plus grands bateaux cousus connus en Égypte sont les bateaux de Khéops trouvés sur le plateau des pyramides. Ils mesurent 42 mètres et ils datent de 2600 avant Jésus-Christ. Le système de ligature le plus ancien utilisé en Égypte, c'est le système d'assemblage par ligature.
Sir, this video I will play.
Okay.
This video I can play in full scale. This video I do have in full scale.
Pour faire
Okay.
place à des ligatures.
You got it, right? So I'll continue.
Yeah, I will just share that.
Okay, very good. Okay,
Le
I'll
système
stop it.
d'assemblage par ligature des Égyptiens.
Now, the basic point is this. The mechanism for making these boats was learned from Kerala. The sewn coils that were used for the sewing the boat were from the coconut trees. They were not available in Egypt. So the entire boat construction was taking place from India
Ships'
from
planks
3000
have rotted,
BC.
the ropes
of
have
the
frayed.
civilization.
Back home, our wives and
That's the point
children wait
I'm
for us.
making.
The work for which we came remains undone.
Le texte d'Homère que l'on vient de naturel qui remonte aux origines mêmes de la construction navale.
The earliest evidence of this technique has been found in Egypt, on sites of the Nile Valley and the Red Sea coast. In an underground gallery at Ain Sokhna, the carbonized remains of a completely dismantled and carefully stored sewn boat have recently been discovered.
Nous sommes ici dans un des galeries de Ain Sokhna sur le bord de la mer Rouge, en présence d'un bateau du Moyen Empire. Ces vestiges montrent que ces bateaux étaient assemblés avec des ligatures et des tenons.
On observe la distribution très bien sur ces deux ensembles. Alors on a des assemblages par tenons et mortaise, soit simples, soit doubles, associés avec des systèmes d'assemblage par ligature.
Les plus anciens bateaux cousus connus au monde remontent à l'ancien empire de l'Égypte pharaonique. Ils ont été trouvés à Abydos et qui datent de 3000 avant Jésus-Christ. Mais les plus grands bateaux cousus connus en Égypte sont les bateaux de Khéops trouvés sur le plateau des pyramides. Ils mesurent 42 mètres et ils datent de 2600 avant Jésus-Christ. Le système de ligature le plus ancien utilisé en Égypte, c'est le système d'assemblage par ligature transversale, dont l'origine se retrouve dans les bateaux de papyrus. Au Moyen Empire, les ligatures transversales disparaissent pour faire place à des ligatures ponctuelles, avec des tenons, comme on le voit dans les bateaux de Ain Sokhna. Le système d'assemblage par ligature des Égyptiens est très particulier et sans équivalent ailleurs.
Cette technique peut aussi revêtir des formes extrêmement diversifiées. La ligature peut être faite dans le sens longitudinal, comme elle peut être faite dans le sens transversal. Et les ligatures peuvent passer d'un point à un autre simplement selon la technique du surjet, ou on peut faire des tours de serrage avec ensuite plusieurs allers-retours selon le schéma du point de croix. Cette technique primitive est une des techniques les plus largement répandues dans le monde. On la trouve de la mer Baltique jusqu'à la mer de Chine. Et aujourd'hui, par exemple, on la retrouve encore très largement pratiquée dans tout l'océan Indien.
And so a team from the Centre d'études Alexandrines in Egypt is heading for India. The aim is to discover more about this assembly technique. The research will concentrate in the south, in the state of Kerala, where sewn boats are still common.
Depuis 5 ans maintenant, le Centre d'études Alexandrines, notre équipe du CNRS qui est basée de façon permanente à Alexandrie, a entrepris une enquête sur les artisanats traditionnels en Afrique subsaharienne et aussi en Inde, de façon à pouvoir éclairer les traces de ces artisanats que nous trouvons dans nos fouilles à Alexandrie même. C'est ainsi que nous sommes partis à la recherche des ateliers de verre premier, mais aussi de ses transformations, et également de métallurgie. Et nous avons élargi récemment notre enquête aux bateaux traditionnels, et notamment aux bateaux cousus dans le sud-ouest de l'Inde, dans le Kerala.
The backwaters, a network of lagoons and brackish lakes connected by man-made canals that stretches some 200 kilometers long and 30 wide inland from the Malabar coast in the state of Kerala. This network, fed by some 40 coastal rivers, represents an important means of communication along an inhospitable coast that is thick with tropical forest. It is an important factor in the local economy for the transport of goods and, these days, as a tourist attraction. At dawn or at dusk, the lakes and lagoons are covered with innumerable large sewn vessels called katuvalam. They settle themselves in the middle of the lake by mooring to punting poles planted vertically in the lake bed. One, or more often two boatmen, will dive in to gather the sand of the lagoon and will fill their craft to capacity, right up to the level of the gunwales. A boat of a dozen meters can thus carry almost 5 tons of sand. The boat will then slowly make its way to a makeshift landing stage. The sand is shoveled, washed, and sifted in the water before being loaded into baskets. If the quality of the sand is suitable, it will then be transferred directly onto lorries. A veritable roundabout of boats and lorries come and go, one after the other, all day long.
മാമാ വാ വാ കാണ് മാമൻ ഫോട്ടോക്ക് പോസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യണ്ട അത് കണ്ടൂടെ.
Other boats deliver clay destined for brickworks, where it piles up in a thick embankment. This quarrying work, along with fishing, is one of the principal activities of the backwaters. It is, however, relatively recent and due to a strong demand from the construction sector. The Malabar coast in the north of Kerala. These large fishing vessels, pointing their prows out to sea, are also katuvalams. Drawn up onto the shore, they are protected from bad weather by palm mats. As with the ships of the Greek fleet at Troy, their broken lashings and unstitched seams have left them unseaworthy and forlorn, awaiting repairs that may never happen. Nevertheless, fishing continues along the coast, but instead of these large traditional sewn boats left slowly to rot, the fishermen use a strange craft. In December 2004, the coast was ravaged by a tsunami. The majority of boats and houses were destroyed. The fishermen, however, continue their profession using rudimentary glass fibre vessels donated after the catastrophe by humanitarian organisations. These rafts of a modern material are the exact replicas of the traditional boat, the Katamaran. Along the shore, one can often see tree trunks lined up. These are the elements of this primitive craft. In the Malayalam language, Katamaran means tied boat. It's the origin of the word catamaran. Some wooden examples of this craft are still used along the coast. In 1697, the English pirate and adventurer William Dampier described them. On the Coromandel coast, they are called catamarans. They are made of 1 or 2 logs, oftentimes of a light wood, so small that they can transport but one man whose legs and lower parts are at all times in the water. However, the traditional catamaran, this simple assembly of 3 roughly cut trunks lashed together, is gradually disappearing. More and more, the modern copy is taking its place. It is indeed curious that the modernization of a primitive craft, so well adapted to its environment, can only be done through imitation. A few wooden catamarans have been relegated to the interior waterways, where they are used by very poor fishermen. Alape is nicknamed the Venice of the East. It is the departure point for cruises through the labyrinthine canals of the backwaters. More than 400 houseboats ply the waterways. Alape is at the heart of the region's waterborne tourism. These houseboats have all the comforts, some even boast air conditioning. It's a long call from the original craft that were principally involved in the transport of rice. These barges also belong to the family of Soane boats, the Katuvalams. Modifications, as with basic repairs, are done on land. Originally, these boats of around 20 meters in length were assembled by stitching. Today, only a few craftsmen still practice this technique at Alapay in order to repair the old traditional vessels. But this tradition is day by day losing out to modern techniques using nails and rivets that allow for boats to be elongated up to 30 meters. There is a risk that just a few years from now, the know-how and memory will be totally lost. After repairs and modifications, and the barges motorized, all to be able to receive tourists, the final proofing and protection of the old lashings of the hull are still done in the traditional style, with a coating of fish oil.
Dans les bock motors, on trouve aussi d'autres types d'embarcations. Par exemple, on a des petites pirogues monoxyles qui servent de barque de pêche, mais pour un ou deux pêcheurs et leur filet, guère plus. Et ces petites pirogues sont simplement propulsées à la pagaie. Ces pirogues monoxyles sont appelées kurevalam et elles mesurent 4 à 6 mètres de longueur environ. Elles sont taillées dans un simple tronc de manguier, mais les réparations se font toujours par ligature, avec des pièces emportées ligaturées. Mais il arrive que ces réparations soient tellement nombreuses qu'à la fin, le monoxyle d'origine soit à peine discernable, n'est plus que résiduel, et on pourrait facilement les confondre avec des bateaux cousus d'origine, alors que ce n'est pas le cas. On retrouve aussi dans les backwaters des grandes barques qui appartiennent à la famille des Katuvalam. Ces barques atteignent généralement 8 à 12 mètres de longueur, mais les plus grandes peuvent atteindre 18 à 20 mètres, ce qui est considérable. Et ce sont ces barques qu'utilisent les sabliers. Ce sont des bateaux qui se caractérisent par leurs formes élégantes et leurs extrémités symétriques qui se relèvent également. Malheureusement, aujourd'hui, la construction de nouveaux bateaux de pêche, de transport ou de tourisme, selon les techniques traditionnelles d'assemblage par ligature, se fait de plus en plus rare. Néanmoins, pour répondre à la demande importante en barque de pêche, en bateau pour la récupération du sable ou en bateau de tourisme, les chantiers se limitent de plus en plus à réparer les anciennes embarcations. Mais le risque à la longue, à force de pratiquer uniquement des réparations, sans construire de nouveaux bateaux, c'est de faire disparaître ces embarcations traditionnelles.
Set near the villages and always by the water, the boatyards need no more than a generally flat area big enough to pull the boats high and dry and to walk around them. A simple piece of sheeting, usually synthetic, protects the workers from the sun and tropical rains. The tools are traditional: hammers, tighteners, plugs, chisels, wedges, awls, augers, wooden mallets, packing wedges, knives, needles. Certain sledgehammers are still made of stone. Apart from some synthetic fibers, the materials are generally taken from local resources: wood from teak and breadfruit trees, palms, coconut fiber, most important repairs involve replacing certain planking, and this requires boring new holes to thread the stitching. But most frequently, the repair and maintenance concerns the stitching itself. It is regularly replaced. This work is undertaken by specialists, one inside the boat who directs the operation, sometimes with an assistant, and another on the outside. The stitching is done first on the inside of the craft. This includes placing rolls of coconut fibre so that they will be packed in by the lashings to ensure a watertight fit. Threading the stitch through the previously pierced holes is done with the help of a long needle made from a blade of palm frond. Gradually, the lashings are blocked and then carefully hammered to pack them tight.
Sir, tell me when
With
to
each
stop.
passage,
Sir.
the lashing is grasped outside the hull and pulled firmly, using a mallet as a tightener.
We can stop it
The
here.
lashing is then blocked
We'll
before
continue.
being
tell
threaded
me
back
when
through to the interior.
Yeah, we can
The rhythm of the
stop here.
work follows
What
the
is-
beat of
We'll
the
take
mallet.
over. Yeah,
Yeah.
we can stop.
Yes.
Okay. Now we'll present. Are you able to see? Hello?
Again, you can share, sir, your
Again, I
PPT.
share the screen?
No.
No. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can
Hello?
hear you, sir.
Okay, yeah. So now, the point I'm making is, okay. A boat similar to the one that we saw. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes,
सुन रही
we
हूँ,
can
sir.
hear you.
Okay, you can hear him? Yeah. See now, the type of boat that has been discovered dated to 1900 before Common Era, that is 4,000 years ago, made from Bharat. Similar boat has been found on the seal, which is a seafaring vessel, which was carrying tin ingots and a script. This has been deciphered. This is Ayakara, blacksmith. Aya is fish, Kara is crocodile. Ayakara, blacksmith. So the products of the blacksmith from the as cargo. Okay, so that is the basic comment that I am trying to make. Now let us see the nature of the river systems which constitute the Saptasindhu region. And we now see the number of archaeological sites that have been found along the banks of the river Saraswati. You see the third map packed with sites, 2500 before Common Era. So the 100 BCE, most of them are concentrated near the Rajasthan area, because closer to Gujarat. Kaithiri mines were here. So the product of the Kaithiri mines was being carried into the Ran of Kutch and then beyond into the Persian Gulf. I submit that together with copper, they were also carrying tin. The tin came from Brahmaputra to the Bay of Bengal from the Far East. I will prove that. Now we have the river has been proved beyond any doubt. We know how the development of sites took place. Out of the 2,600 archaeological sites, 80% of the sites are on the banks of the river Saraswati. Saraswati is here. So this is a Saraswati civilization. Okay. And this has been proved again through the recent researches done by Anirban Chatterjee, published in the Nature magazine in 2019, proving that the Saraswati river is a navigable waterway. Just as the Kerala boats are flying, there were also boats flying on the river Saraswati. They were going through the Persian Gulf. They were also going into the Red Sea, as we have seen in that French video. And they were carrying a lot of trading activity was taking place. In fact, one article published in the Iranica Antica has their Bronze Age revolution was carried out by the copper coming from the K3 mines. Can you believe that? Saraswati River was the source for the copper of the entire European area. 90% of all the archaeological artifacts have been examined. They all contain copper from the K3 mines and the tin from the Far East. That's got to be proved yet. Now we can go back to the Devi Suktam of the Rigveda, where the Rishika Bhagam talks about the prayers she offers to a number of people, including Varuna. Is praised in this sukta is a person called Tvashta. So this is the sukta. Aham soham mahanasam vimaryaham tvashtaramutta pushanam bhagam aham dadami dravinam havishmate supravye yajamanaya sunvate. The reading is, I support Soma. I pray to Tvashta Pushan Bhaga. I bestow wealth upon the instructor of the right, offering the oblation, deserving of careful protection. Who is Tvashta? Shika Bhagamuni Devi Suktam, Rashri Suktam is talking about Tvashta. Who is Tvashta? I submit, he is the artisan of the Saraswati civilization, Tatar. Tatan in Tamil means a goldsmith. Taksha is a carpenter. Tvashta, Taksha. And in the Germanic people, looked upon Tuisto, according to Tacitus, is the people of the Saraswati civilization migrated to Europe, and the Tvashta was the artisan who became the founder of the Germanic people. He is Tvashta. The people who wrote the inscriptions, now we have found about 8,000 inscriptions. They have all been deciphered. It was declared in the parliament by the Honorable Finance Minister, based on my decipherment, that the Meluhas were the people who created this script. Meluha is a person who does not speak the Sanskritam grammar. He speaks only ordinary speech. He may mispronounce things. It's like a speech of Bengali auto rickshaw driver and a poet or a Bengali scholar. So there's always a difference between the locus of the local dialect of the people, the artisans, and the written script. So the people who created the script writing system were the artisans of the civilization, the seafaring merchants. Okay, that has been proved. Now with surprise, the findings of Rakesh Tiwari, at the same time that the Saraswati civilization was flourishing, 1800 before Common Era, iron ore was being worked on in the Ganga basin. This is from Loharadeva, Malhar, and Raja and Kikila. There were iron smelters have been found. Surprise! They were also working with tin. The tin ingots were found in a shipwreck in Haifa in Israel that contained in the script. I have written an article in the Indo-Judaic Journal and proved that this race, there is a Mukha. Muha means face. Muha means ingot. There is a liquid measure that's called Ranku. Ranku means tin. X means Dhatu, Dhatu, Dhatu cross. Ranku, Dhatu, Mukha. Tin, ore, ingot. Tin, ore, ingot. These are 25 kilograms, pure, 99% purity. So the tin was also being supplied by the Meluha seafaring merchants into Europe through Persian Gulf. Surprise! We have Indus script inscriptions and pictographs also in the Far East, in Indonesia, in Thailand, in Laos. Bronze drums have been found with Indus script, an elephant, tree, peacock, frog. They're all Indus script. Mukha is a frog, Mukha is in God. Karaba is elephant, Karba is iron. Maraka is peacock, Maraka Kaloha is Kal. So the people of the Indus civilization were the people who also moved into the Far East. The Meluha language, which is comparable to the Santali language, is the language that is the origin for the Mon-Khmer languages. This has been proved by these linguistic scholars in the University of Hawaii. The Mon-Khmer languages, Austroasiatic languages, came from Bharat. Okay, so the main language of the spoken people by the Meluha included Dravidian words, Indo-Aryan words, and Austroasiatic words, Santali words. Mundarika became, they are also found in the Rig Veda. So the people who spoke the dialects of the languages, they spoke Meluha, which is a mispronunciation of the words that are found in all the languages of our country. They constituted the writing system of civilization. So where was the tin found? US Geological Survey has shown that the tin belt of the world is in the ancient Far East. See the red dots? That is the largest tin belt of the globe. 75% of the tin ore is available only here, nowhere else. For creating bronze, you require copper and also tin. So where was the tin coming from? East, through Brahmaputra, Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati, Persian Gulf. It was also coming through the Indian Ocean, Bay of Bengal. So now we can understand why there was Bali Yatra from Orissa, why they went to the ancient Far East, because they were working with bronze, they were working with metals, they were creating wealth of the nation, they were exchanging goods. So the India was a transit point for the transport of tin. And I will prove it to you from the Rig Veda. So we have found the entire channel of the river Saraswati. It's a very wide channel. The width of the Saraswati in south of Patiala is about 20 kilometers. You know, Brahmaputra river, the width is about 13 kilometers. The Saraswati of the old times was bigger than the Brahmaputra. We also have a 10-kilometer bridge. So there was a significant activity that was taking place along the wide branch of the river Saraswati, which was a flowing river. It was a navigable river for hundreds of years in BC. That's why the trade activity was created. But then we know the reasons why the Saraswati disappeared. The principal reason is this: plate tectonics. As the Himalayas are growing, because the Indian plate is moving northwards at a speed of about 6 centimeters per year and lifting up the Eurasian plate by about 1 centimeter every year, creating the Himalayas. The cosmic dance, the Tandav and Nrityam is still taking place. The Himalayas are still growing. As the Himalayas goes up, there are tectonic activities in the entire region. In Bengal, in Meghalaya, in Assam, in Kashmir. Continuous activity of tectonic activity which are recorded 1 on the Richter scale to 7 on the Richter scale. We had a huge earthquake that happened. So like that, the earthquakes are continuously happening, which result in river migrations. What type of migration took place? Because this is how the Indian plate has moved north, still moving northwards, lifting up the Himalayas and creating the Himalayas. Now, the reason why the Saraswati disappeared is because of 2 breaches. There is a Sutlej tear, there is a Yamuna tear. Yamuna went eastwards, Sutlej went westward. So Saraswati became dependent only on the minor flows waters and the monsoon waters. But still it was flowing. So even when the Balarama Tirthayatra took place around 3000 BC, the river was a flowing river, a navigable river. Okay? I think we very clearly understand that. And we have found in a place called Binjore near Anupgarh, you see the rightmost satellite image, where you can see the old paleo channels and one channel forking downwards. At Binjore, we have found a Yagna Kunda, where copper and tin by the Archaeological Institute led by Sanjay Manjur. Now we see here there are two maps. One map shows the languages, another map shows the Bronze Age sites. They are all Bronze Age sites, this map. These Bronze Age sites are extended into the Far East. They are working in copper and tin. Copper and tin. This is why there is a cluster of these languages of Austroasiatic Mundarika languages in this region, which are now called the Bengali or Oriya or Santali, Santal Parganas and so on and so forth. They constituted the language of the Saraswati civilization. Point about the importance of Brahmaputra and Bengal. So there is a statement in Amara Kosha called Sadanira. Sadanira is also called Karatoya River. That Karatoya River is here in Bogra, in Bangladesh. It's a tributary of both the Ganga and the Yamuna and the Brahmaputra. So this Karatoya River is mentioned in the Rig Veda, where Gautama Ravagana moves to Sadanira from Kurukshetra. That's what the Rig Veda says. Videga Matava moves to the activity in the Saraswati civilization. There's also activity taking place in the Ganga and Brahmaputra river basins. That's important. Sadanira or Karatoya was the river where Gautama Ravagana Rishi went and started working with the metalworks resources. They were creating the wealth of the nation. We also recorded in the Baudhayana Sauta Sutra the migrations of the people from the Kurukshetra region, both eastwards and westwards. This has already been declared. So the people from this region went to Germany and created the Germanic people, Tvashta. So the artisans of the civilization, the artisans documented them in the script and they created the wealth of the nation. They constituted the guilds, Sreni, sharing the wealth and creating the wealth of the nation. Okay, so this is very important. So we must understand now the received wisdom is that the Saraswati was a navigable river. Just as Brahmaputra is navigable even today. We have got inland waterways we have seen. Ganga was navigable, Yamuna was navigable, Brahmaputra was navigable, Saraswati was navigable, Persian Gulf was navigable, Tigris Euphrates was navigable. All the boats were flying around. A lot of seafaring activity was taking place in maritime trade. The maritime trade and commerce created the wealth of the nation, which made Bharat the richest nation in the world. By one common era, we accounted for 33% of the world GDP. Bengal accounted, China accounted only for 25%. India was the richest nation of the globe in 3300 before common era. Okay? Now we have got a work to revive the river Saraswati. Phenomenal work is going on. Work has been done to document the river links. They have already been approved with Supreme Court in 2012. They said this interlinking project must be taken up and completed. So look at the links of the Himalayan portion. We got the Manas Sankosh, Tista Ganga, Kosi Gagra, Gagra Yamuna, Sharada Yamuna, Yamuna Rajasthan, Rajasthan Sabarmati. So Saraswati will be created using the Sharada river waters and crossing Ganga and Yamuna and through aqueducts and flowing through Rajasthan into Gujarat up to Sabarmati. So in about 5 years' time, when this work is completed, including the links of the Brahmaputra river, to link the Brahmaputra with the Mahanadi, to prevent the flooding, to control the floodings in Brahmaputra, these waters which are being wasted into the Arabian Sea will be taken through Subarnarekha river into Mahanadi. They will also flow into Farakka and then come back into the Ganga river. Will be made available for the entire region so that this will become a veritable hub for navigable waterways and also for continuous cultivation of 3 crops in the entire region. So this is how the links have been very clearly identified. Feasibility studies have been completed. Agreement has been made with the government of Nepal Nepal will get the hydroelectric power, we will get the water. Sharda river waters, which are now creating Kosi floods and all that, will now be harnessed to recreate the river Saraswati. Floodwaters of Brahmaputra will also go up to Kanyakumari through a series of links called the peninsular links. Okay. So these are the Himalayan links. These are the peninsular links. How will the waters be taken? Here is the wonder. So we have got what's called aqueduct. Aqueduct is a canal with crossing another canal. Like a road over bridge, there is a water over bridge. The Roman aqueduct is about 2000 years old. There are similar aqueducts in Spain. We will have an engineering marvel when aqueducts like this and cross both the Yamuna and the Ganga rivers. Can you believe that? Both the Ganga and Yamuna will be crossed through aqueducts within the Sharada waters, which will make the river Saraswati flow through right through the entire northwest India. The desert can be made into a fertile land. In fact, this river also can be navigable, depending on the technical studies that are made to control the evaporation of the evaporation, because of the intense heat in Rajasthan and all that. But we can make. So it will be a wonderful sight to have this 1,600 kilometer long canal converted into a Saraswati river, linking up with the Rajasthan canal, and recreate the river Saraswati. So Saraswati river civilization will be reborn when we remember the work done by our Pitrus, who created the wealth of the nation, and when we make the river flow again in our land through the interlinking of rivers, which has been a project which, if we are talking of 100 lakh crores for infrastructure investment, the interlinking of rivers only costs crores. It's nothing for us. And the job can be done in 5 years' time. The feasibility studies have been completed. Work can be taken up. Flooding in Brahmaputra and the Assam northeastern area can be controlled. And the drought-prone areas on south of the Vindhyas can also be made navigable rivers, perennial rivers. The Himalayan waters can reach every part of the country. It will be an extraordinary revolution that we will be creating with this opportunity given to us. So this interlinking of rivers, Himalayan component detailed studies have been done as of 2021. They're all been completed, and we are now ready to take off. To relive the civilization, we have found 2 toys wearing sindoor at the parting of the hair. We have seen the ladies wearing Shanka bangles, like the way the Bengali ladies and the Northeast ladies wear during the marriage. Shanka bangles. Do the asanas, do the namastes, and recreate civilization. Reborn, and the river Saraswati is reborn. We will all go on a pilgrimage like Balarama to Ahmedabad in Gujarat, and take a dip in the Saraswati in Sabarmati, Ahmedabad. That will be a day that we will be witness to a generation. We will be a generation which will see the rebirth of river Saraswati in our time and recreate the great heritage that has been left to us. For the wealthiest nation of the globe, we can recreate that wealth by interlinking all that activities that are taking place. So a maritime trade can be restored. The Indian Ocean area can become vibrant, carrying all the cargo. I think there's an opportunity which is phenomenal, which can recreate a new generation, a new revolutionary fervor among the youth. We can employ in the interlinking project alone for the next 5 years, 10 lakh people can be employed. All the panchayats can become the shareholders in this project. In the enterprise, we will be building a 1,600 kilometer long river, but we will be creating 100,000 kilometers of canal systems, taking up a very bit of land, which is favorable land, and allow for 3 crops being cultivated in all parts of the country. We can triple our agricultural production from the present level of 250 million tons to about 450 million tons. It will be a revolution on the anvil when Saraswati gets reborn. Namaskar. I'll stop sharing, Chaudhary ji.
Thank you very much for your presentation on Saraswati River civilization, and we are mesmerized with thought, and also you said that the recreating the or reviving the path and linking the river, which can boost not only energy, but we can go back to our past and we can really rule the world as a Vishwaguru. And more on that, if we take the riverways, we are definitely preserving the ecological balance. But all the roadways and railways are the way we are following, which is actually creating or sabotaging the nature. Whereas river ways is the safest and environmental friendly. And more on, it will create a havoc maritime life and the coexistence and interdependent that one is there, which is nowhere possible and no way possible. It's really a fantastic one. And we also found a lot of, while sir contacting you, I tried to go through all, few papers that way, and few of them you have clarified our doubts regarding the Saraswati civilizations and how far we have approached, and what are the projects are underway, and what are the research are going on. You have given some idea, and moreover you have already mapped these technology which were there since thousands and thousands years, which has traveled from India to other places of the world. So the people, those who claim that no, it has originated from us and went back to India, no, it has, it is from there and still it in existence. As you have said, in the coastal areas of Kerala, the stitching part is a peculiar stitching part which has traveled from here. Still there is very is a really a sharp eye like you only can catch these things. We are and I we are very much thankful, and what should we say? There are no words to thank you, because many things are there with you. Now I would like to request Dr. Ankita Dotto. Would you like to summarize in Assamia, Dr. Ankita Dotto?
Do you want me to summarize like both the sessions, or only this one? I mean both the of Dr. Omji Upadhyay also, or only this one?
Yeah, both and.
Okay.
Actually, Dr. Chaudhary, I had a question to Srinivasan.
Yes, I think.
I'll be very brief.
Professor Harendra Bala, yeah, after summarizing this, we'll open this question out. Okay. Yes, Dr. Ankita Dotto.
Dr. Shubhajit Chaudhary, can you give me 1 minute? 1 minute. I'm summarizing. Just I need to. There is some connection issues with my laptop, so just give me 1 minute.
Okay. Then, Professor Bora, by this time you can ask the question.
Yes.
Sir
may reply later on. That's correct.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yes.
Srinivasan ji, sir, namaste to you. Sir, Srinivasan ji, sir, namaste. Sir, actually, I was in Kurukshetra for nearly 6 years. I visited the water course of Saraswati. I went up to Kalibangan, then Rakhigori also. Then to the northeast, I went up to Yamunanagar. And from Yamunanagar, probably the source of the river Saraswati is some 25 kilometers north. Sir, I was nearly 10 kilometers nearer to that lake called Plaxoplavano. Then I have observed the Saraswati Nala is still there around Kurukshetra. Sir, is it possible? Actually, I am keenly following all kinds of activities relating to Saraswati River nowadays. I went through the reports of Archaeological Survey of India as well as ISRO, satellite imagings. Sir, my point is this. Actually, probably there was a big tectonic event, some around 2700 BC, and because of that, the mouth of the Saraswati was blocked near the Plaxoplavan lake due to hillsides. Now, is it possible to dig that hill and make the mouth open of the lake so that the water of the lake Plaxoplavano can flow through the canal and then later on the entire river can be dug and make wide? I repeat, is it possible to dug the mouth of the Saraswati in Plaxoplavan river so that the water of the lake, the source of Saraswati, can flow again through the canal? Later on, sir, you will give this answer. Thank you, sir.
Enough work has not been done by the geologists to figure out why it happened when there's only a broad indication, only theory. All we have are only the theories. We don't know what impact we'll be creating by opening up like that. Because the tectonic event, they'll continue to happen. Just as the Satluj went westwards because of a tectonic event, just as Yamuna went eastwards because of a tectonic event, tearing up the Shivalik ranges. We don't know. So we don't have enough information to mess around with nature. I think we have to live with the system as it exists and then work around the problem. So I think what is being done today to revive the river Saraswati using the Sarada waters is an engineering solution possible and which will not disturb anybody else. The Kosi River and also make available the water. So I think because enough studies have not been done, we should not rush into making any judgments about how it can be done. Because we will be tampering with nature in a very big way by going into the Shivalik ranges and also to these lakes that are there all over the place in the Saraswati basin. Without proper studies, geological, morphological studies, I think it will be risky for us to interfere with the natural happenings that have taken place. That's my feeling, Haridra ji.
Namaste, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Ankita Datta, please.
Yes, thank you. This session was also interesting, just like the last technical session. And we had to speak Dr. Jivasai and Mr. Srinivasa Kalyanaraman. Thank you. Thanks to both of you. Andrai is not here, right? So my comment was maybe 5 minutes of after lunch or executive session is there. The first speaker was Dr. Jivasai. He spoke on the paradigm shift of Bharatiya Itihasa writing and approach towards so he began his speech by
Maybe your fan is creating trouble. Fan is creating.
Okay. So Dr. Omji Upadhyay began his speech by delineating on the subject of history in Bharat, which is a much debated subject. And then he also explained in detail about the distortions created by the Islamo-leftist and Nehruvian propagandists who have interpreted history from their own narrow perspective by accepting the Western hegemony and glorifying the Muslim invasions. And the textbooks written by the JNU cabal of historians is a toxic left-oriented discourse of lies and concocted truths, and it was acclaimed, always denigrated the achievements of Prachin Bharat and the glorious Hindu past that we had. And nationalist historians like Jadunath Sarkar and all of them, etc., they have always been relegated to the background. और जो झूठ था वो झूठ को ही हमेशा ये वामपंथियों ने इतना ज्यादा फैलाया और इतना बुरी तरीके से हमारे अंदर उसको घुसा दिया है कि उसको क्वेश्चन करने के लिए और सच बोलने के लिए कि हमारी अंदर जो वो करेज वो होना चाहिए वो भी ऑलमोस्ट खत्म कर दिया है। और उससे भी जो एक मतलब एक जो डेंजरस मतलब एक जो डेवलपमेंट जो हुआ है इनकी झूठ की वजह से कि वो झूठ को ही मतलब इतना बताया उन लोगों ने कि अभी हम लोग उसको सच मानने लगे हैं। So it is as if the lies have become the truths in Indian history. लेकिन उन्होंने ये बात भी बताया कि अभी धीरे धीरे भारतीय इतिहास की एक पैराडाइम शिफ्ट हो रही है और इसके ऊपर हमें डॉक्टर उपाध्याय ने एक विश्लेषण भी उन्होंने एक प्रस्तुत किया। जैसे उन्होंने बताया कि आर्यन इन्वेजन थ्योरी के बारे में उन्होंने बताया और जो अभी कंप्लीटली डिस्क्रेडिट हो चुका है और पूरा जो सरस्वती सिविलाइजेशन के बारे में जो शोध हुआ है उसमें भी मतलब काफी कंट्रीब्यूशन किया है हमारी हिस्ट्री राइटिंग को एक नया पैराडाइम देने के लिए। उन्होंने ये भी बताया कि आदि शंकराचार्य और गौतम बुद्धा की डेट ऑफ बर्थ पे हमें और शोध करने की जरूरत है और जो कुरुक्षेत्र वॉर था, महाभारत वॉर, it should be the sheet anchor for carrying out this research further. And in this context, it is important that we refer to primary sources, क्योंकि उससे हमारी रिसर्च की ऑथेंटिसिटी बढ़ेगी और उससे हमारी रिसर्च की क्रेडिबिलिटी बढ़ेगी समय पर among the new generations. So और उन्होंने वेदवीर आर्या जी के 3 पुस्तकों के बारे में डॉक्टर उपाध्याय ने बात किया था। लुम्बिनी की माया देवी मंदिर जो मतलब ये सब जो रेफरेंसेस है गौतम बुद्ध की डेट ऑफ बर्थ पे हमको मतलब हमें काम आ सकती है और रिसर्च में एक नया पैराडाइम हमें दे सकता है। और महावीर जैन जैसे चंद्रगुप्त मौर्य, कालिदास, इन सभी स्कॉलर्स और महापुरुषों की भी मतलब डेटिंग के ऊपर हमें काम करने की बहुत जरूरत है। और मेडिवल हिस्टोरियंस ने जैसे जो लिखा है वो इतना ज्यादा जो दिल्ली सेंट्रिक एक हिस्ट्री है मतलब इट इज ओवर्टली फोकस्ड ऑन दिल्ली। इसके ऊपर भी मतलब हमको सोच विचार अभी हो रही है इसको दिल्ली सेंट्रिक से कि बाकी जितने भी रीजनल किंगडम्स और रीजनल एम्पायर्स थे उसके ऊपर भी हमको आने वाले टाइम पे अपनी रिसर्च लेके जाने की जरूरत है। एंशियंट तमिल किंगडम्स जैसे थे, मराठा, द कंट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ द मराठास एंड शिवाजी महाराज, द कंट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ सभी एस्पेक्ट्स में हमें आगे और काम करना है अपनी आने वाली पीढ़ियों के अंदर वो राष्ट्रीयता का अनुभव, वो प्राइड जगाने के लिए जिनसे उनको हमेशा दूर रखा गया है। और एक कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव हिस्ट्री ऑफ भारत के रूप में हमें काम करने की बहुत आवश्यकता है जो सत्य पे बेस्ड हो और जिससे एक संतुलित इतिहास लिखा जा सकता है। जो इतिहास ब्रिटिशर्स ने हमारे लिए लिखा था उससे हमको बाहर आना है और भारतीय चेतना और चिंतन से हमें पुनर् अपने इतिहास को लिखने की बहुत जरूरी है। भारत को पुनर् विश्वगुरु बनाने के लिए या ले जाने के लिए बस उनका वही था। और द नेक्स्ट स्पीकर दैट वी हैड इन दिस सेशन वाज प्रोफेसर who spoke extensively on the revival of the Saraswati civilization, and he also presented a very beautiful PPT PowerPoint presentation explaining the different facets of the Saraswati civilization and the Saraswati Nadi. So as we all know, it was an early Hindu civilization area, which is the Sapta Sindhu region, and it is referred to in the Rig Veda in the verse Saraswati Saptathi Sindhu Mata. So river Saraswati, the seventh, the mother of rivers, and many scholars have successfully identified this region geographically as the present day northwestern Hindustan, Punjab, Haryana, western Uttar Pradesh. Okay, so उन्होंने मतलब उसमें केरला के भी बहुत सारे वो एग्जांपल्स वगैरह दिए, तो इससे कि जैसे आर्कियोलॉजिकल as archaeological explorations and investigations have proceeded, it became clear that over 80% of the मतलब जितने भी archaeological sites वो discover हुए हैं, they were situated on the banks of the Vedic river Saraswati, which is also mentioned in our Rig Veda. जैसे उन्होंने राखी गढ़ी का भी मतलब एग्जाम्पल दिया है इसमें, और जो मतलब the Hindu civilization was nurtured on the banks of the Saraswati river basin from the Rig Vedic times, and और जो cultural indicators है, the cultural indicators which have been evidenced by archaeological discoveries and textual references, they attest to the continuity of the Hindu Sanatan culture into different historical periods, and these make the Saraswati river basin the fountain source, one of the most important of a continuum called Hindu civilization, which can be traced back to at least to more than 8,000 years before before the present times. And he has extensively and very beautifully explained about the rediscovery of the Vedic river Saraswati, and as we all know, he has worked extensively on this, so it was really a pleasure listening to you, sir, and we would like to hear from you again very soon in the near future. और इसी के साथ मैं अपना समराइज जो भी मतलब है उसको समाप्त करना चाहूंगी. धन्यवाद. नमस्ते.
Dhanyavad Dr. Ankita Datta for telling or summarizing this session's speaker's speech, and where we came to. Now we are about to end of the program. We are approaching towards, and we are especially thankful to Dr. Omji Upadhyay and Professor Srinivasan Kalyanaraman. And Professor Srinivasan Kalyanaraman, his thought-provoking speech has touched our heart, and we expect that his good health, and also expect that he will again throw us more knowledge with regard to Saraswati civilizations in days to come. Now, I would like to request Professor Dilip Kumar Phukon sir. Prior to that, is there anyone who would like to ask any questions to Professor Srinivasan Kalyanaraman ji? Konebai karobar jigyasha ase naki? Amar Professor Srinivasan Kalyanaraman ji koribo bisare Saraswati Nodi Hobbhotar oporot koribo pare. Or jodi nai, then I will go ahead with. Okay, then I'm with this. I would like to request Professor Dilip Kumar Phukon sir, President Bharatiya Itihas Sankalan Samiti Assam Prant, to deliver his address to conclude this session. And before concluding, of course, Dr. Jury Sharma will also sing for us. Rashtriya Geet. So before that, I would like to request Professor Dilip Kumar Phukon sir to deliver his concluding remarks.
समस्त सज्जनों को और प्रणाम है। आज हमारे लिए बहुत स्मरणीय है क्या चौधरी?
স্যার আপনার সাউন্ডটো কাটি গৈ আছে স্যার।
নেটে এতিয়া শুনিছেনে? Have you here?
স্যার শুনিছো স্যার।
Have you here?
শুনিছো স্যার।
हाँ?
শুনি আছো স্যার।
आज का दिन धन्यवाद। आज का दिन हमारे लिए बहुत स्मरणीय है क्योंकि 5 दिग्गज पंडित ने हमारा ये कर्मयज्ञ में अंशग्रहण किया और बहुतों पॉइंट ऐसा बिंदु दिया जिसका ऊपर और प्राचीन भारतीय सभ्यता, संस्कृति, इतिहास, शिक्षा यहाँ के ऊपर में रिसर्च करने का बहुत रास्ता निकल सकता है। डॉक्टर बालमुकुंद जी, डॉक्टर प्रोफेसर सतीश संतोष कुमार शुक्ला जी, प्रोफेसर श्रीनिवासन कल्याण रमन जी, डॉक्टर महावीर प्रसाद जैन जी, डॉक्टर ओम जी उपाध्याय जी, ये एक विषय में अपना विषय में एक दिग्गज पंडित है। हमारा बहुत सौभाग्य है क्या क्यों भारतीय इतिहास संकलन समिति असम प्रांत का ये कर्मयज्ञ में ये वर्कशॉप में उन्होंने अंशग्रहण किया और हमको बहुत विषय का दिक निर्णय किया, हमको एनरिच किया। सबको समस्त सज्जनों को पुनर्प्रणाम और ये कार्यक्रम सफल करने के लिए डॉक्टर सुभजीत चौधरी ने कितना कष्ट किया हम उपलब्धि करता हूँ और साथ ही साथ डॉक्टर अंकिता दत्त, डॉक्टर जूरी शर्मा and others were cooperated fully. So we hope that in future we will get full cooperation from all scholars, subject experts and our organizers. With these few words, I conclude my speech. धन्यवाद।
ধন্যবাদ ফুকন স্যার। There is small announcement. We have put this feedback form in the text box of this platform, Google platform. In the text box, you can find the feedback form. You can fill up the feedback form, and today evening itself, the certificate will be distributed. Now, I would like to request Dr. Judy Sharma for Rashtragit.
শুভজিৎ দা শুনি আছে না? আওয়াজ আহি আছে?
শুনি আছে, আহিছে।
রাষ্ট্রগীত
শুনি আছো।
वंदे मातरम वंदे मातरम सुजलाम सुफलाम मलयज शीतलाम सस्यश्यामलाम मातरम वंदे मातरम शुभ्रजोत्स्ना पुलकित यामिनी फुल्लकुसुमित द्रुमदल शोभिनी सुहासिनी सुमधुर भासिनी सुखदां वरदां मातरं वन्दे मातरम् कोटि कोटि कंठ कल कल निनाद करले कोटि कोटि भुजे जित खर करवाले अबला कनमाय तो बोले बहुबल धारिणी नमामि तारिणी रिपुदल भरिणी मातरम् वंदे मातरम् तुमि विद्या तुमि धर्म तुमि निधि तुमि मर्म संहि प्राणा शरीरे बाहुते तुमि मा शक्ति हृदये तुमि मा भक्ति तुम्हारे प्रतिमा गढ़े मंदिरे मंदिरे मातरम वंदे मातरम त्वं हि दुर्गा दश प्रहरण धारिणी कमला कमलदल विहारिणी वाणी विद्या दायिनी नमामि त्वां नमामि कमलाम् अमलाम् अतुलाम् सुजलां सुफलां मातरम् वन्दे मातरम् श्यामलां सरलां सुस्मितां भूषितां धरणी भरणी मातरम् वन्दे मातरम् वन्दे मातरम्